Summary of King Lear by William Shakespeare. King Lear wants to give his land to his 3 children so he can enjoy his old age without the responsibilities of being king. He has planned a ceremony where each of his daughters will tell him how much they love him in front of lords like Lear's trusted friend Kent, the Earl of Gloucester, and Burgundy and France, 2 men who want to marry his youngest daughter. During the event, both Goneril and Regan, his older daughters, say that they love Lear more than anything else in the world. Cordelia, Lear's youngest daughter, refuses to play along. When it's her turn, she says she loves Lear no more, no less than a daughter should. Lear is so angry that he takes away her payment and sends Kent away when Kent tries to help Cordelia. France says he will marry Cordelia even if she doesn't give him a gift. Lear then tells the nobles who have gathered that he will keep 100 guards and have them live with Goneril and her husband, Albany, 1 month, and Regan and her husband, Cornwall, the next. Back at Gloucester's house, his illegitimate son, Edmund, wants to replace Edgar as Gloucester's heir by turning Gloucester against Edgar. Gloucester thinks that Edgar is planning to kill him because of a trick that Edmund plays on him. Goneril, who went to live with Lear first, gets mad at her father and his guards for making trouble in her house. She tells Oswald, her servant, to be cold to Lear. In the meantime, Kent, who was sent away, comes back to Lear in disguise, offers his skills, and is invited to join Lear's group. Goneril tells Lear that his guards are too loud and wants him to get rid of half of them. Lear is very hurt and angry, so he curses Goneril and gets ready to leave with his fool and some of his other followers to go stay with Regan. Back at Gloucester's castle, Edmund's plan to get rid of Gloucester goes forward. After Edmund gets Edgar into running away, Gloucester is sure that Edgar wants to do bad things, so he sentences Edgar to death and makes Edmund his rightful heir. Cornwall and Regan get to Gloucester's castle and invite Edmund to work for them. Kent and Oswald arrive outside with letters from Lear and Goneril for Regan. Kent makes fun of Oswald and tells him they should fight. Cornwall, angered by the noise, puts Kent in the stocks, even though this is a rude thing to do to Lear. In another part of the country, Edgar dresses up as a mad beggar named Poor Tom to get away from the death sentence his father has given him. Lear comes to Gloucester's castle himself. He is upset to find his man Kent, who is still in disguise, in the stocks, and his anger grows when Cornwall and Regan refuse to let him see them. Goneril comes soon after Regan finally comes out. Lear fights very hard with both of them, and Regan agrees with Goneril that Lear doesn't need any servants of his own. When each of them tells him that he can only stay with them if he fires all of his guards, Lear runs into a storm, mad with rage. Cornwall, Regan, and Goneril lock Lear out of Gloucester's castle. Kent, who has just been let out of jail, meets a gentleman who tells him that Lear and the fool are alone in the storm. Kent is looking for Lear. Kent tells the gentleman that the French army is coming to England. He gives the gentleman his purse and an identifying ring to bring to Cordelia. He also asks the gentleman to tell Cordelia that Lear has been treated unfairly. Lear, meanwhile, has gone crazy and is yelling at the storm while the fool begs him to go find cover. When Kent finds them, he shows them the way to a small house. Back inside the castle, Gloucester tells Edmund that he is chosen to try to help Lear and that he has gotten a letter about the French invasion. After Gloucester goes to find Lear, Edmund tells the crowd that he will reveal his father to Cornwall. When Lear, Kent, and the fool reach the shack on the field, they find Edgar there, dressed as Poor Tom. Soon after, Gloucester finds them and takes them to a house where they can stay safe. Inside Gloucester's castle, Edmund tells Cornwall that Gloucester has decided to help Lear. He also gives Cornwall the letter from France that shows that Gloucester has been lying. Cornwall gives Edmund the title of Earl of Gloucester in exchange. Back at home, Lear hides from the storm and has a dream that Goneril and Regan are on trial in front of him, Edgar, and the fool. Gloucester comes back and tells Kent that Goneril, Regan, and their husbands are planning to kill Lear. He also asks Kent to hurry Lear to Cordelia, who has just arrived at Dover with France. Back in the castle, Cornwall sends men to catch Gloucester and sends Edmund and Goneril to tell Albany that the French have arrived. When Cornwall's troops bring Gloucester in as a prisoner, Cornwall and Regan cut out Gloucester's eyes as a punishment for his betrayal. But Cornwall's servant tries to stop him, and the two of them end up fighting. Even though Regan stabs the helper in the back, Cornwall gets hurt in a way that will kill him in the end. Regan kicks Gloucester out of his own home, even though he has lost his sight. Two of Gloucester's workers feel sorry for him and decide to try to help him find poor Tom, who they know is really Edgar dressed up as someone else. Outside of Gloucester's palace, Edgar meets his blind father while still dressed as poor Tom. Moved to tears, he agrees to take him to Dover. While that was going on, Goneril and Edmund went back to her house to get Albany. But Oswald meets them and tells them that things have changed in Albany. Goneril sends Edmund away as soon as she can. When Albany comes out, he yells at her for being so rough with her father. In answer, she tells him that he has become a wimp. A messenger comes and stops them from arguing. He tells them that Cornwall has died from the wound his helper gave him, and that Gloucester has gone blind. Kent and a gentleman talk about Cordelia's love for Lear in the French camp. Cordelia's love for Lear is what brought her back to Britain at the head of an attacking French army. Kent says that Lear himself is in Dover, and even though he has moments of reason, he doesn't want Cordelia to see him. Cordelia sends a search party after her father from the camp, where they are staying. Regan asks Oswald about Goneril and Edmund when they get back to Gloucester's house. She says that now that she is a widow, she thinks she should marry Edmund and asks Oswald to help her see why this is a good idea. As Oswald runs off with a letter from Goneril for Edmund, Regan says that she will help anyone who kills the blinded Gloucester. In the meantime, Edgar pretends to lead Gloucester to the rocks of Dover, but they are actually on flat ground. He does this to cheer Gloucester up. When Gloucester jumps to kill himself, but only passes out and falls, Edgar rushes over to him, pretending to be someone who saw Gloucester jump and tells him that it's a miracle that he survived. Lear shows up completely crazy, and he goes on and on about lechery, power abuse, and other bad things that people do. Lear runs away when some of Cordelia's search party show up. Just then, Edgar and Gloucester walk up to Oswald. He tries to kill Gloucester, but Edgar ends up killing him instead. Edgar finds letters from Goneril to Edmund in Oswald's purse. In the letters, they plan to kill Albany so that they can get married. In the French camp, the doctor who is taking care of Lear wakes him up, and Cordelia is there to greet him. At the start of the fight, Goneril and Albany argue in her camp. She tells herself that she would rather lose the war against the French than let Regan marry Edmund. Edgar, still dressed as a peasant, gives Edmund a letter from Goneril that tells him what she plans to do to Albany. He then quickly leaves, telling Albany to call him with 3 blasts of a horn if the British win the fight with the French. While Edgar puts Gloucester to sleep under a tree, the fight is happening off stage. During the fight, Britain beats France, and Edmund gets Lear and Cordelia. Edmund throws them in jail and then sends a captain after them with secret orders to kill them both. When Albany's herald calls for Edgar, he shows up in costume and fights and hurts Edmund. As Edmund is dying, he tells Edgar everything he has done wrong. Edgar says who he is and says that right before he came, he told Gloucester who he was. In that moment of sadness and happiness, Gloucester died. Goneril has already poisoned Regan in order to get Edmund for herself, but when he dies, she stabs herself as well. Before he dies, Edmund says that he told his captain to kill Lear and hang Cordelia. Albany sends men after them to try to save them. But it's too late. Lear comes out of jail holding Cordelia's dead body, mad with grief. He tells her that he killed the captain who hung her, but it was too late. Lear dies right there from his sadness. Only Albany and Edgar are left to pick up the pieces, and Kent has come to the realization that he will soon have no choice but to follow his master's path and take his own life as well.
About the author. William Shakespeare was the son of John Shakespeare, a wealthy leather worker, and Mary Arden, a well-known farmer's daughter. Shakespeare's schooling only extended as far as the elementary school level. In 1582, he married Anne Hathaway, and the two of them had 3 kids. Around 1590, Shakespeare left his family and went to London, where he worked as an actor and wrote plays. Shakespeare was an instant hit. He quickly became the most famous writer of his time and a part owner of the Globe Theatre. In 1603, King James gave his acting group the name the King's Men. Shakespeare moved to Stratford-upon-Avon in 1613, when he was wealthy and well-known. He died there 3 years later. Shakespeare wrote 39 plays and more than 150 works. To this day, he is still the most well-known and respected writer in the English language.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.